What's up, world? I go by DJ Ali Red, and you are now tuned into a new episode of the All Things House podcast. Tonight, once again, we have a very special guest. I've known this guy for about a year now. We DJ'd a couple times once again. That's a good thing about having DJs as friends. You can just call them up, and they're always ready to spin all the time, always ready to talk. They always have a good opinion on the house music scene. But yeah, so I've known this guy for about a year now. Spun together a couple times down in San Diego, downtown. We also spun together in Mexico, which was a crazy time. We'll talk about that later on. But tonight's guest, my man Eddie. What's up, bro?
What's up, dude?
How you
Thanks
doing?
for having me.
Of course,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Thank you for coming. So we like to get in first. We like to talk about a little background of yourself, where you first became the house music scene, when did you start becoming, when to become a DJ. So let's touch on that. Like, where are you from?
So I grew up in San Diego,
Okay.
but for the most part, I grew up in the outskirts, so North County and East County.
Okay.
So I guess my background in house music starts with when my uncle would be attending raves and stuff.
Okay.
So I, as a kid, didn't really understand the rave scene. I kind of just admired my uncle for the most part, just because he always had, like the big brother tendency.
Oh, yeah.
So
For sure.
he always had badass music bumping from his room, and so for the most part, I would technically steal his CDs,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So for the most part, he was really into Richard Hump Division
Okay.
and DJ Irene. So that hard house scene was kind of like how I started getting into the scene.
Okay.
Not necessarily getting into the scene, but just started getting into electronic music.
The music part, right? Do you remember what year this was?
Shoot. So for sure, that was like 96,
97. Right? Okay, cool. Yeah. I was about to say that. Yeah. So then kind of from there, how did you want to become a DJ, or was that like a natural progression of the whole house scene? Like, what was the vibe with that?
So for the most part, I kind of just started to establish my mentality of wanting to become a DJ when it came to when I was 16 or 17.
Okay.
I was working on a property up in Julian.
Okay.
And we focused primarily on quinceañeras and like weddings.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I started getting into
Mm-hmm.
more of the party aspect. I mean, even then, I grew up in Fallbrook as well. So
Okay.
there was a whole bunch of party crews back in the day where you would go from Fallbrook, you would go to Oceanside,
Okay.
or Fallbrook and Oceanside would collaborate on a party, and then once I moved to Julian, I would hang out with Ramona and Escondido kids would collaborate on parties.
Okay.
So that's how I kind of started seeing like the DJ aspect of
Okay.
the party scene. But I truly didn't decide to become a DJ up until I was probably like 20 or 21.
21. Okay. Cool. So your upbringing basically in the music scene, house music scene, was more like an underground type party vibe, right?
For the most part, it wasn't really formal.
Okay.
I wouldn't consider it. I would definitely consider it underground.
Yeah.
But nowadays we just have so many aspects to house music, or just even scenes, that what I was into back then was almost in its own vacuum, just because I doubt we'll be able to bring that back again. But it was a very interesting scene because you were having hip hop, and then you were also having I guess what's called don't quote me, but powerhouse. So essentially it was just top 40 tracks remixed into house music.
That's kind of the, I say, grandfather of some EDM stuff,
Exactly.
They took a lot of top 40 bangers and then put a house beat behind it, and then boom, you got kind of top 40ish EDM bangers,
Exactly.
So as far as you said, you wanted to or started looking to become a DJ 21, 22ish, right? Age frame. How did you first get into that? Because I know for me personally, I got the idea of wanting to become a DJ, but I didn't know how to start. So how did you take that first step to try to learn how to become a DJ?
So yeah, exactly. I was in the same boat where I didn't really understand how to start, because I didn't really start raving until I was like 18.
Mm-hmm.
So even then, there was a bunch of different scenes. I grew up listening around that time was pretty much when I was really into drum and bass and really into dubstep, really into like, you know, the, I guess what you say, the grimier sounds of electronic music.
Okay.
And even then, there was a whole bunch of different scenes then. And then I was kind of confused because, you know, growing up, I had Hard House, I was listening to trance, I was listening to Richard Humpty. I had a whole array of styles that I was fond of, but I was more along the lines of wanting to push that music in a way that was appealing to other people besides Latinos.
Okay.
Because, I mean, for the most part, growing up, I'm not sure if it was the case for you, but for me, I was always kind of the outcast just because I'd be listening to drum and bass or whatever it was, and it wasn't popular back then.
Okay.
So that's why I kind of it's kind of funny because I had like this art project in high school and I was like, I want to somehow integrate electronic music and hip hop music, and now it's become traps and I'm kind of like, oh shoot, I'm glad I didn't get involved in that, you know. So
yeah, man.
But I definitely so going back to your question, I didn't really start understanding the scene until I started promoting. Once I started promoting, I kind of got an understanding of the structure, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, like in order for you to play at a party, you kind of have to have a following. And,
yeah.
Back then, we didn't really have the ease of access to all these platforms we have now.
Yeah.
And I think 2010 was right when SoundCloud was just coming out. And, and back then, there was a whole bunch of interesting sounds that I just really wanted to push as well. For example, like Bloghouse. Bloghouse, I would consider it between 2005 to 2012-ish. And that's when you had like Ed Banger Records just pushing out a whole bunch of interesting tracks. And I really wanted to go for that sound. I guess that what you would call like European French house.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was like 19 is when I finally got my first mixer.
Okay.
And I started practicing with that. And for the most part, I was kind of naive. I was just trying to download whatever and just trying to mix it all together. And, you know, I was still trying to discover myself, you know. And then not until I was deployed, I actually started practicing in a more professional setting. I would say not necessarily professional setting, but one of the stations or one of the bases I was at, they offered, there was a clubhouse that you could rent out, bring your own speakers, and pretty much you had to reserve for yourself. Whoever stopped by would listen or leave. You know, and that's kind of how I actually started, like actually with whatever extra time I had, I would, you know, like especially when I was out on missions, like I'd be listening to a track and I'd be like, oh, I like this, I'm gonna, you know, highlight this and go back to it later and compile a mix later. But yeah, that's kind of not until I actually was in the military, I would say that I actually I had the means to actually be able to afford afford gear.
So you said that you were in the military, correct?
Yep.
So not a lot of people know this because I personally don't like to talk about personal life stuff, but since we are on this topic, me and Eddie are brothers in arms. He is a Army veteran,
correct,
and I am a Marine Corps veteran. He learned or kind of focused on DJing deployed, learning the basics, as well as I did as well too. Now most people think, shouldn't you be out doing, you know, war stuff? But there are times when you need to decompress from a mission, because you see wild stuff over there, obviously, you know.
Oh yeah.
So there is definitely times where you need to, like I said, decompress. And I know a lot of veteran DJs that found the love of DJing and music through, you know, either deployments or seeing crazy wild shit. And that kind of brings them, it centers them, you know? So like I said, that's how I also learned.
No, exactly.
I had a buddy that he had to leave because I was a contractor over there too. So a buddy had to leave real fast, get out of the country real fast. So he ordered a mixer And it was not a mixer, it was a controller.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to get out of the country real fast because something happened back home. He had an emergency, and he didn't have time to bring it back, so he sold it to me, and that's how I kind of learned. Yeah, right. That's how I kind of learned how to DJ. That was the 3-step, 3-year process that took me to learn how to DJ.
Yeah. Shout out to Amazon for shipping overseas. Fuck, like
Amazon.
Yeah.
We need that sponsor right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's definitely a dope way to learn. So from that point, coming back from a deployment, eventually you got out the army, right? Mm-hmm. And then kind of pick it up from there. Did you continue on the DJ wave, or did you kind of go back to the beginning with the promotion side of the house?
So for the most part, I kept the DJ dream on the back burner just because, for a lot of personal reasons, mm-hmm. It wasn't an ideal situation.
Okay.
Just because from observing the scene, it seemed that the trend was you pretty much have to be a couch surfer to just pay your dues and then get out in the world.
That's true.
And I mean, I couldn't afford to be a couch surfer,
mm-hmm.
I just needed to make sure I had stuff handled.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so I went ahead and pushed along with being a promoter,
mm-hmm.
just because it was like a way for me to, say that I'm still chasing my musical dreams, my musical aspirations.
Yeah.
But still, even then, it didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
I loved what I was doing. It felt. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like if you're young, you should definitely go out and be a promoter. It's the easiest way to go check out the world, see the world for face value, and get
mm-hmm.
your wiggles out.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're just chasing this dream of whatever it may be. And once you're actually a promoter, you get access to a ton of tools and things that you wouldn't be able to typically do on your own funds.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But
So from the promoter side to the DJ side, how would you be able to kind of separate the two and then try to figure out which way do you want to go? Do you want to, because there's always a point in someone's career, where do you want to do? Mm-hmm. Do you want to put someone on the back burner? Do they want to do this? Do they want to do that? How do you see the house music scene from kind of when you started to kind of now?
Okay, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So I think it was like 2012
mm-hmm.
when I started promoting for Saturday night sessions.
Okay.
They used to host rooftop parties at what is now Omnia.
Okay.
And those parties were pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how I got most of my networking. But yeah, like, I don't know how to say it, but I mean, I'm not trying to knock on Omnia, but so first it was Saturday night sessions, and then I started partying more at what was known as Voyeur. Voyeur had brought in a whole bunch of talent,
mm-hmm.
and then once Voyeur shut down and went to Bang Bang,
okay,
the first few years of Bang Bang was awesome,
mm-hmm.
but it slowly kind of became a weird. Gaslamp itself kind of became a weird area.
Okay,
and for me personally, that's where I set my eyes on as far as for partying.
Okay,
because back then I would be commuting from Julian because
all the way from Julian to downtown.
Yeah. Damn. So yeah, back then when I was a promoter, I would be promoting Wednesday through Sunday.
Okay.
But yeah, anyways, so I'd always be driving down here because that was where the money was at.
Yeah.
It was easy to network,
mm-hmm.
and for the most part, it helped me mature a lot. And that's kind of how I kind of started to see the tendencies of what a nightlife routine is.
Okay.
Start off drinking here, you start going there. Somebody gets upset at something. It's always the same show.
Yeah.
So that's when I kind of realized, like, no, I understand this aspect. I want to know more.
Okay.
And then once I started learning how to sell tables, started running party buses, I was like, okay, well, now I want to know more. And the thing is, no matter what you learned, you were always feeding somebody else.
Yeah.
You weren't necessarily helping yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's when I kind of like decided to take a break from promotions and kind of just really start, focusing on the sounds that I liked the most.
Okay.
During the same time, I would be attending EDC and a whole bunch of other festivals. And back then, these festivals weren't really, well, in my situation, since I was in the military, for the most part, I always attended these festivals by myself.
Yeah.
So I never really had a network to start with as far as outside of that to bring to San Diego. Because around that same time, Saturday Night Sessions was on its way out. You could do your research later on what happened, but I mean, it's there's some good history between EDC and Saturday Night Sessions, or excuse me, Go Ventures. But yeah, I kind of took a break, started really thinking about what I wanted to do, and I still had that controller that. I've been mixing in slowly or surely, like stuff started working together just because, I actually knew what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
Because back then I was just so confused because I was promoting one party, it was fun, but those artists quickly died out.
Yeah.
So that's when I started seeing those trends, and I was like, well, I need to stop following trends and actually focus on pushing music because me as a promoter, I got to see it firsthand. You see new artists coming out every year, and the artist that was booked the year before now is worth too much, but they wouldn't announce it.
Yeah,
they couldn't afford to pay that guy.
Yeah,
but because the reason being why they're pushing new artists was because they were cheaper and it was easier for them to promote a new artist.
Yep.
Rather than book real good talent.
Yep. Well, that's how it is. Everybody's trying to trim the fat on some of paying something. It was either top shelf liquor or is it that artist or this artist. They're definitely trying to skim off a little bit. But I want to touch on one thing. So you run a collective right now, basically, right?
Right.
What's the name of that collective?
1904 Kollecktiv.
There it is. Shout them out. Kind of. So you have an aspect of the promotion and an aspect of the DJ. So when new DJs come up to you and ask, "Can I play for you?" What are some of the tips and tricks you tell them? Maybe it's a no, maybe yes, whatever it is. What are some of the things that you are looking for in a DJ as a promoter or as a collective, the head of a collective?
So personally, I myself viewing it as since I have to curate my own parties.
Yeah,
I'm more so looking for people who are actually sincere.
Okay.
People who are actually trying to push themselves and may not actually have the means for it. Therefore, that's why if I identify somebody who is actually trying to push for a sound, trying to be somebody, and not be coerced to play a certain sound, because that was my thing. Is like, as much as I wanted to push a certain sound, the bigger money told me, nope, we have to push for this event.
Yeah,
we have to do that event. Because for example, Park was one of the venues that I really loved, but every now and then they would push house events, but it wasn't consistent enough.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of started taking this initiative to prove to San Diego that there is a market for it. We will go out to these events. We will spend money, but at the same time, you have to present the party to us in a way that makes us want to drive to downtown.
Yeah.
So on that same note, the DJs I look for, I want to make sure that they're also up to that speed, because because 1904 Kollecktiv focuses in the downtown area just because it's kind of, I would say it's a hub for lots of ideas to happen and occur, a lot of mingling to happen. But so for all the upcoming DJs, right now we live in a really cutthroat world, and at the same note, it's very easy for you to promote yourself, very easy for you to just learn whatever you need, like just learn the basics. I mean, back then there wasn't really a SoundCloud or a Mixcloud, or as easy it was to find tracks, or even Shazam. Shazam back in the day was kind of Shazam was kind of interesting to where it's gotten to today. I'm surprised it's still free.
Yeah, no, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But yeah, it's my biggest suggestion to these upcoming DJs is focus on your craft, focus on your sound, but as well be involved in the scene.
Correct.
Be relevant. Find because I mean, shit. When I first started getting into like DJing, I kind of was, not I was kind of hesitant because it was kind of the theme that in order to be a DJ, you have to also be a producer. And so now the theme now is you have to be producer, DJ, promoter.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I kind of already learned the promoter side, so not necessarily that I'm the best at it, but I definitely got a knack for it.
Yeah.
And the producer side is still something I'm trying to work with, but I'm trying to wait to find the sound that I'm trying to push, discover myself a little bit. But sorry, I keep backtracking. But yeah,
that's cool, bro. We got plenty of time, man. Yeah. Got plenty of time.
No, but yeah, so like I mean, and the professional aspect, especially if you're trying to, build yourself and your sound, definitely find the crews that because San Diego right now is blowing up. Definitely I feel like there's a spot for everybody, whether it be that Desert Heart sound, whether it be I guess the what do you call it? Well, anyhow, there's definitely different niches for everybody.
Definitely.
So stop trying to chase what everybody else is doing. Just go learn what the scene is about, because there's so much out there.
There is.
And the more you understand what the party culture is like, the more likely you are to understand what you are trying to push.
Yeah. Yep. That's kind of like when I first started to thinking about becoming a DJ, that was like the real beginnings and maybe the boom part of the EDM scene. And I knew what house music was, but I didn't know what house music was. Like I didn't know that song was a house song. I didn't know that song was like a deep house song. I just knew it was, EDM, basically, But then once I started discovering that there's different genres of house music in house music, basically, I just stopped listening to EDM completely. You know what I mean? And then that's the good thing about house music, because I'm discovering new sounds, new producers, new tracks daily almost, and that kind of feeds my mind and opens up my mind on different things that I kind of want to incorporate in my production. And some shit is just trash, and I won't mess with it at all, But definitely the umbrella of house music has definitely changed my sounds. I don't want to say daily, but a lot. It changes my sounds. From house music to techno to lo-fi to deep house to minimal to progressive. All that shit is intertwined into one, basically, Like you can perform a set. Like if you're a good DJ, you can go from house to techno within 2 hours and it'd be a whole different vibe. And everybody, takes their ride with you, So for the upcoming guys, and you don't know what you want to produce or listen to, go to, one night, go to Hillcrest and listen to what over there. Next night, go to, Blonde Bar. Next night you go to PB, the Ave, more tech houses like that. Just try to experience, like you said, just try to experience all the house music, all the house scene,
Yeah. And then, especially like with what you're saying, this lo-fi wave that's happening right now is really interesting, because it really goes to show that regardless what the mainstream is asking for, there's these sub units of people that they're inspired by whatever, and they create their own culture wherever it may be. And that's why it's like it's very important for you just to go out, experience it, take notes on it, and just build off of that rather than just copy what everybody else is doing.
Exactly.
Because that lo-fi scene right now is really interesting to me, just because, I think it's one of the more rawer aspects that we're seeing in San Diego.
It is, man.
And it's very, I mean, especially in TJ, like I think it's just so fun, because it reminds me of like, not necessarily that it's at all any way the same, but so like there was juke, there was I guess what you call footwork, and that also Jersey House, right? Remember that?
Yep, of course.
Yeah, so
of course.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I love Jersey House. I thought it was so fun.
Yeah.
And then real quick, about like within a year or two, it kind of almost died out, and then there's a lot of copycats since then.
It's more of a over there. It's more of a a demographic cultural thing. So that's like a northeast thing.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it kind of go down south more. Then you have the whole Baltimore swing and all that stuff. So it's more like a northeast thing. I honestly I would want to see how that work here actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's his face? Shoot, I forgot what his name was. Dang. But he came. So back in the day, he would come out to Voyeur,
Mm-hmm.
and then he also came out to Flux once. Shoot, DJ. Dang. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
it was really interesting to see that, but I feel like it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same vibe as it was over there.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Because I mean, so the closest thing I can get to that is here in San Diego, we have our shufflers, we have our steppers, we have different versions of dancing.
Yeah.
And over there, the Jersey house dance, and as long with footwork, is a completely different.
Yeah.
Just format of just expressing yourself, and I think that's the more interesting part about music. It's like it's not about what you're playing, is how people are dancing to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if people can really exhibit themselves in a really extraordinary fashion, I think you did a great job.
Oh yeah.
Just because, I mean, for whatever you want to say about Jersey house, I mean, I still find it awesome to think that people were rocking with it. People were coming up with their own dance moves.
Yep.
And just people just creating their own flow with it. And,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that segment in time can't ever be replaced.
Correct.
And I mean, fortunately, I was able to experience it, see some cool dance and this, that, and the other. But I mean, right now what we got still going hard is shuffling.
For sure.
So
that won't die. I don't think that won't die because it's some different versions. They have the shuffling. Then I think there's like what's it about, the Australian one? What's it called? Shit, I forget. But it's a different version of and then it's got hard step and all that shit.
Yeah,
I'm not really dancing anymore, man. I'm too old for that, man.
Yeah,
I got
my knees can't take it.
I got bad backs and bad knees like that, man. But so, techno.
Yes.
We'll talk about that for a little while.
Yep.
That is your main genre to DJ. Is that a fair assumption to say? So, or the most thing you like to DJ?
It's my preferred genre.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part in San Diego, I haven't really had the opportunity to play techno.
Yeah.
And not necessarily because I don't want to. It's just I just haven't had the opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's been easier for me to acquire gigs as a house DJ.
Yeah.
And I don't have any problem playing house.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like house is so versatile. It's so you could go really hard, but at the same time, I also like the loungy aspects.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I think a couple of podcasts ago, we were having a discussion about, from me personally, I see a trend because the whole house music scene is about ups and downs and different trends and all that stuff. I honestly see a trend of techno music making a big comeback. Do you see that coming up? Any events coming up like that?
No, definitely. Possibly? I do see people are more apt for it, just because I think now, especially with Cross Festival, is now helping the scene to understand different flavors of techno and understand that it's not necessarily just 4 on the floor, or it doesn't necessarily have to be 124 BPM, or it could be 146.
Yeah.
Techno for the most part is a mentality, I would say, that is just to push the more, I guess, non-sequential sounds.
Okay.
Even though recently I feel like it is kind of becoming a formula, but at the same time, there's a lot of cool people in San Diego pushing different sounds.
Yeah.
So
I know that there's a couple of events that try to get picked off the ground last year. I forget what spot. It might have been Omnia that did like a Techno Tuesday for a couple months, or one of those places that did a Techno Tuesday, and it just, I think I went once or twice, but it just never picked up. And I think that is because people, when they hear the word techno, they think of the 140 and people wearing black eyeliner and shit like that. Like they need to get rid of that that stigma.
The biggest thing about techno, and same thing with house. Well, I mean, I don't know. I can't say it's the same for house, but with techno, you're dealing with the biggest music snobs. Everybody has their own vision of what techno means to them.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, I feel like during those parties that were just starting to happen in downtown, there wasn't enough. I think that there wasn't enough parties going on for everybody to have a home.
Okay.
And now that we have Nocturne, we have I'm starting to hear a lot of crews coming out of Chula Vista, and as well like other from even North County. I'm starting to hear crews coming together, and I think that's is really what's going to help establish this techno scene, because for the most part, everybody has their own perception. Like I said before, like so it's not right or wrong for me not to like somebody's sound. It's just that's not what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
Some days I want some Carl Cox, just like just easy listening to techno, and then sometimes I just really want some stuff to just fuck me up.
For sure.
Just because for the most part, that's why I love techno, because it's just for me it helps block out the noise in my head.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
For sure, man. That's kind of like we were talking about. Learning when we're talking about the learning how to DJ aspects of it. A lot of us find, the safety net or comfort in music to help us through whatever I'm going through. You know what I mean? I think I made a post the other day about how a DJ is basically the heartbeat of the room. You know what I mean? They a good DJ will figure out a room and give them what they want, and then take it back a little bit, and then give them what they want more. You know what I mean? So it's constantly, going through a bed of emotions. You know what I mean? Good emotions, bad emotions, whatever emotion it is at the time. That's personally like why I like to be why I like DJing, because I like to be the heartbeat of the room. So I mean that's kind of how I feel. You know what I mean?
That's exactly why I'm all about it too. Because whether it be 2 people on a dance floor, 3 people, or even like 20 people on a dance floor, or whatever amount, as long as I have a couple people dancing, and to me, like the biggest euphoric part that I get out of it when I DJ is when I see a couple dancing together.
Yeah,
when they're dancing together and just connected to the vibe, and just one-upping their night experience, and like making sure they go home and handle some business. That to me is like the most fulfilling part.
Definitely, bro. Definitely. All right, man. So we are at the ends of the podcast. It was a great podcast. Do you have anything to plug? Instagram, Facebook, SoundClouds. Let them all know, man.
All right. So pretty much we're wrapping up the year with 1904 Kollecktiv. It's been a great year, but definitely follow us on Instagram, 1904 Kollecktiv. It's kind of hard to spell out, but definitely look it up in the podcast info.
C or K?
The K.
It'll be on the bottom.
Yeah. So
okay.
Kollecktiv, like European. We're not. Yeah. So exactly. We're just trying to bring like that European party culture down here.
Definitely, bro. Definitely. All right, man. Like I said, thanks for coming, and let's get to the decks, man. Peace.